What's up, y'all? Back with another video. Some story time again. Um, I was watching this YouTube video, and it kind of reminded me of something, that I experienced back in the 90s. This was on a channel called The Art of Dialogue, and this cat was interviewing Spice One, and he asked Spice One about an incident with Tupac that happened in Milwaukee at a concert back in the 90s. And it's an incident where, Tupac had, I guess he got on stage and he was talking crazy to the crowd, and people like wanted his neck. I didn't know exactly why Tupac was so aggressive, because I didn't actually go to the show. But on this video that I saw, Spice One was explaining that Tupac was upset because the gang, the Black Disciples, which are very prevalent, in Milwaukee and Chicago, one of their young members had shot some people, and a little girl, 14-year-old girl, I guess, was she caught a stray bullet, and it killed her. And this young guy, I think his nickname was Yummy, he was like an 8-year-old kid, 8-year-old gang member. And after he shot this girl, or after he did this shooting and the girl got killed, he went into hiding, and then members of that gang murdered him because they thought maybe he would, talk to police or whatever. And that happened in Chicago back in the 90s. So Tupac apparently brought it up on stage. There were a lot of those gang members in the audience, and he had an earful for them. And of course, Milwaukee doesn't play that. Now, this incident with the shooting took place in Chicago, but this Tupac concert that I'm speaking of, happened in Milwaukee. And so when I heard Spice One, who was with Tupac at the time, he was on that bill actually, when I heard him talking about it, it kind of reminded me of that whole time back then. So let me tell you about that, because Milwaukee's my hometown, and I remember when that concert came around. This was 1994. Now, keep in mind, at that time, music hadn't crossed over, like rap music hadn't crossed over like that, to the point where, you would see anybody and everybody at a rap concert. It hadn't crossed over. They were still primarily, a black crowd, in these concerts. The only white people you would see at rap concerts, you would see them at Run DMC shows, and you would see them at, surprisingly, you'd see some at Public Enemy concerts. But for the most part, you didn't see them too many other places. You might see some at like a Salt and Pepper show or whatever, but the 90s it just hadn't crossed over like that. And usually the type of people who were in the crowd kind of represented the type of artists that were performing. Now, back then, a lot of the rap concerts, a lot of the concerts in general, actually, would have commercials on the radio. They might have commercials on television. So you didn't have in addition, I should say, to maybe a paper flyer that you might pick up somewhere, you'd also see it advertised in the paper, as well as radio and television. So I remember specifically driving down the street, and I'm listening to the radio, and this radio ad for this show, this rap tour, they were playing that, and I'll never forget it. It was like they said there was gonna be, the lineup was like the Ghetto Boys, I want to say DJ Quick, Spice One, Tupac, Scarface was doing a solo set, and it was one or two other like quote unquote gangster rappers on this bill. Now, like I said, the type of people, or the type of artists that were performing usually drew those type of people, if you know what I mean, to those shows. Get out of the sun here a little bit. So when I heard all them names of the people who were going to be there, I was like, I'm not going anywhere near that place. In fact, it was at the Bradley Center, downtown Milwaukee. I'm gonna make sure I'm not even downtown, because I know what kind of people are gonna be at this show. And we used to call them like roguish people. That's what we called them in Milwaukee. It's gonna be a bunch of rogues down there, or it's gonna be a bunch of roguish people down there. And that basically today I guess they would call them thugs, or knuckleheads, whatever you want to call them. And so I made sure that I wasn't going to be nowhere near that place, even though I was fans. I had all of those records of those people that were performing, but there was no way, because even when the NWA concert came through Milwaukee back then, it was like Kid and Play was on that bill, and Chubb Rock, and Salt and Pepper, and Kwame. It was a lot of audience-friendly groups and artists on that bill. But I remember even afterwards, like when we were leaving the venue, do you remember when on the Kings of Comedy, when Cedric the Entertainer, he was like, let 4 or 5 people just get up and start running and see what everybody do. Everybody gonna start. That's exactly what happened. We were all leaving the show. There's thousands of people. We're walking outside. All of a sudden we hear something. We turn around, and there's just all of these people just running towards us. And you could tell they were running for cover and ducking, and everybody in the vicinity of where I was, we all just started running. We didn't know what was going on, but we weren't gonna, stand around and see. And people were ducking into like doorways and stuff, and there were no gunshots or anything like that. But hey, you just got to be better safe than sorry when something goes down. So you could kind of get a grasp of if certain people were coming to town to do a show, a certain element was going to be there. So anyway, I didn't go to that show at all. But like the next day, I hear that Tupac got into it with a bunch of people in the audience, and he was just like cursing them out and doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, what? Really? And a few days later, it was like in the newspaper. Just like a couple days later, and they just said that Tupac incited a riot, and because of that he was banned. This was 1994, by the way. Because of that, he was banned from ever performing in Milwaukee ever again, based off of that. It was a little bit after that. I don't know if it was weeks after that or months after that, and I don't know where this footage came from, but and Spice One kind of mentions that people had like tore up the hotel or whatever. Well, we had this public access channel in Milwaukee, channel 14, MATA, in Milwaukee, and everybody, including myself, we all had these little TV shows, if you will. And somebody, I think it was on a show called Hardcore Reports. It was either Hardcore Reports or Reality 101. And this dude, Mr. Image, we used to call him, he was like a videographer, and he had all kinds of stuff that he would show on these shows. It was a dope show. There was like DJs on there and a lot of local cats or whatever. But I don't know where this footage came from. I don't know if he took this footage or if he got the footage from somewhere else. But there was a hotel, I can't remember the name of this hotel, but it was a newer It was like a brand new hotel high rise right in downtown Milwaukee, literally right across the street, like kitty corner to where the Bradley Center was down there. And there was footage in the front lobby, and thousands of concert goers had stormed that hotel looking for Tupac. So apparently, if you watch that video on the Art of Dialogue, he talks about that part. So he talks about Tupac was just cursing these gang members out, and next thing you know, on this footage, it was just thousands of people in this hotel lobby running through there, tearing stuff up. You could see like the security guards and the staff couldn't do anything about it. They just were standing around like looking in amazement. Go for it, buddy.
Thank you, bro.
All right. They were just looking around, or standing around looking. They were like totally confused. They didn't know what to do, and it was crazy. But all these kids running through there and they tearing stuff up, and yeah, I remember that footage, and I was like, man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I didn't go to that show. I was, there was no way I was going there. Now, as time went on, music really kind of started, now you can go to like a gangster rap, concert, and depending on the city you in, you might not see a whole lot of black people. It might be, 10-20%, and like most of the crowd nowadays are white people. But back then, no, there was no way that I was going to, for lack of a better term, a gangster rap tour, and everybody on that bill was serious business, if you know what I mean. So yeah, like, I was watching that, and it kind of reminded me. I said, let me talk about this, because people might find that interesting. But Tupac had a mouth on him, and it's not cool. I've been in a lot of places where, just because you're famous and just because you a tough guy does not mean you can go anywhere you want and just play that whole role or whatever. It's not the safest thing to do. So apparently, he got out of there in one piece. But yeah, man, I just wanted to share that with y'all. Crazy times, man. I'm glad I wasn't nowhere near that spot when it went down. So yeah, that's what I got for y'all, man. I'll see y'all next time on Daryl D TV. Peace and love.